Welcome back to our show, Empower Your Life. I'm your host, Cindy Marie. Our next guest, she's the world's best faith, courage, and freedom coach, a wife, a mother of three who transitioned into a coaching as a formerly practicing attorney who struggled with chronic illness. She is now focusing on serving female attorneys who wish to restore their mental, physical, and spiritual health, and also take courageous steps to live the freedom lifestyle of their dreams. So, I cannot wait for you to meet her so she can break down and let us understand the power of faith and courage to freedom. So, let's all welcome our next guest, Miss Joan Claire. Hi, Joan
Aw.
Claire. Thank you
Hi,
so much
Cindy.
for
Yeah,
how
very
are
good to
you?
see you. I'm doing well. Beautiful day here in Phoenix.
Thank you, thank you,
Um,
thank you. And just a little bit time difference, and
yeah,
it got me confused.
no
So
worries. We're good.
let's dig in
Yeah.
for everyone to get to know you. Why don't you share with us how your journey started from, with the background of as attorney, and then you also mentioned about the chronic illness. Where
Yeah,
does the shift started and, the realization point appear? So share with us your story.
for sure. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, so I went to law school and at Notre Dame Law School in Indiana after undergrad and began practicing law in Portland, Oregon, which is the state where I grew up. At the time, I had already married my husband, a fellow law school classmate, and began practice at a mid-sized firm in Portland and really enjoyed it for the most part. Um, we got pregnant with our first during my first year of practice, actually, and I didn't want to stay. I didn't want to go back full time, and just with the firm set up, it wasn't possible to work part time at that point. So I decided to stay home full time with her, and it was really beautiful time with my first child, my daughter. Yeah, so maybe going back too far, but kind of struggled with some identity issues leaving the law, early on in my career full time. I began working for my parents' business shortly thereafter and enjoyed that challenge while raising my youngest. And then we had our second child within 20 months. So it was a pretty close time frame between our first and second child. And that was when I started developing autoimmune, what you would call autoimmune challenges by the rheumatologist, like a spinal arthritis similar to ankylosing spondylitis, just chronic pain in my sacroiliac joint, and sometimes really difficult to even walk with two young children, getting them in and out of car seats. It was pretty kind of scary in many ways because I didn't know what was going on. And, the doctor wanted me to go on drugs like biologics that may cause cancer and all that. And I had a bad experience with drugs, like being on drugs longer in high school on an antibiotic that caused autoimmune type symptoms for me. So I didn't want to go that route. And I looked into more natural approaches to managing my illness and found an autoimmune paleo diet. And that was hugely helpful, but I still would get debilitating flares at times. And my mindset was just not in a good space in many ways. I was just not having any personal development background whatsoever. I just kind of saw what was wrong out there, like with my disease, my illness, maybe with my husband not feeling fulfilled in his legal career. At the time, my son, who's now 10, had some behavioral challenges that we started to notice when he was 2. So basically, long story short, I really had a tough time with my illness and periodic flares physically. And it wasn't until my husband actually started to get into entrepreneurship and pursue personal development books that I was actually seeing a shift in his mindset and his way of being. And that intrigued me because I just was feeling so kind of helpless and lost. Like my faith was really helpful to me in keeping up my hope, but my mindset was still kind of like, the problem is out there. There's nothing I can do to really change internally to make the situation better, if that makes sense. So I just remember, being kind of at a loss and kind of crying one day, or, just feeling really desperate. And my husband just said, focus on what you're grateful for. And why don't you go to the park and read this book? Or it was like a book like by Jen Sincero, like You're a Badass or something like that. And it just got me opening my eyes to the idea that I could actually shift a lot internally in order to live more joyfully beyond just a faith in God and faith that God's got this and he's got me, but actually shifting my thought patterns was something totally new for me. So that was kind of my entry into personal development. And interrupt me if you need to, if I'm going too long here.
No.
But it wasn't until we moved to Phoenix, actually, and then my kids, whom I had homeschooled, my older two, we had another child at this point who was 6 years later for my second. I just decided I want to do something entrepreneurial. I started a Facebook group for women with autoimmune challenges and I had a website and blog, but I didn't feel like I was having enough one-on-one interaction to really understand what they're going through and making sure that I'm helping them. So I decided I would offer them free coaching and realized, I don't know anything about coaching. I'm an attorney. I've homeschooled my kids. Like, what do I know about coaching? So I Googled how to be a life coach and found John Strasser's Accelerate program, which is about kind of a prosperous coach method of connecting and inviting, creating clients that way. And created my first paying client or two in that program, and then joined his paid program. So the rest is kind of history. That's kind of how I delved into coaching from being an attorney and homeschooling my kids.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I think what you've been going through, and I mean what you've gone through in the earlier years, that was really tough. Especially, you have your mindset thing, and then physical thing, and then you also have your 3 kids. But the good thing is also that your husband is very supportive to let you have a space, and really deep dive into what you really can offer. And thankfully now you are doing a coaching. And how does it feel? Like, of course, the transition, what makes you like really feel that this is the coach, this is the profession I really want to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think for me is I feel like, I was mentioning this to my husband the other night, I do have a deep faith. Like I really leaned into my Catholic faith actually in college when I was in a serious bus accident and 4 people died in Argentina. And I was really kind of grappling with like, okay, God, I'm here still. There must be a mission for me. And so I really leaned into my faith in those years, and it really brought me a lot of peace in college after that accident. But to answer your question about how do I feel that this is my calling? I just feel that in coaching, it's almost like you're being God's love, like his unconditional love for another person. And I think that's the most beautiful thing. Like if you can be so present to a person and just emanate love and not judge the person and just be open and present to what they're saying and what they're feeling, and reflect back what you're hearing and offer some questions that might challenge their way of thinking that are kind of destructive to their well-being. To me, that's just the most beautiful gift that you can give someone, to share that space and kind of like be God's love for that person. And they may not have anyone else in their life that can be that person to them, because even if they're, in a happy marriage or good family life, sometimes with family members, there's challenges because they're kind of biased, right? They're in the situation with you. They haven't invested interest in certain outcomes. And as a coach, you don't have that. So you can just kind of be that loving energy and really help the person have some life-changing shifts in the way they see things that impact their life hugely in many ways. And that affects their family's life, the other loved ones, the people they impact in their jobs, careers, and it's just like a ripple effect. So I just love having the opportunity to impact people on a really deep level, not like, some coaches might be like, okay, let's come up with a diet plan and kind of the more external aspects. But for me, I really like to help people really learn to be present with themselves. And that's the way my coaches help me. And I want to carry that gift on as a coach as well. So that's kind of what it means. So that's how I feel. Like I can't imagine another job that has that level of kind of sacred presence and intimacy in many ways that you can have for someone else. And I really appreciate that about it. It's like, it's a real gift to have that role in someone's life, even if it's for 6 months.
I agree with you.
Year, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I would have agreed with you on that because it's just very fulfilling, when you serve someone. And yeah, it's somehow when you feel like you have a gift to offer to people, especially giving them the light, that they can actually transform their life, and you as a guide or as a tool in God's eye, that you are there to let them realize that they have greatness within them. And I think I have encountered this one time that someone told me, you chose a very good profession because a lot of people, especially in COVID, I mean, now it's more relaxed, but I'm pretty sure that there was a point of time that you have a lot of people kind of a need of that space to share their struggles. And
for sure.
You have experienced that for sure.
Yeah, I think, it's definitely my own experience. I've had a lot of vulnerable, weak moments that I feel I can be more compassionate or empathetic with where people have been. And but not everyone's ready to open up to that level. So
sure.
It's just, you kind of just offer your service, and some people aren't ready, some people may not be the best fit, but if you're just coming from a place of service, then it's really a lot easier that way as a coach,
Yes, agree. And you mentioned this faith. I love it. And we have different understanding of faith, right? So I want you to elaborate, what does faith mean to you? And what do you think, or how do you think super important it is in our daily life? How is it going to impact or influence our daily life? Can you share with us?
Yeah, I mean, faith can have so many different levels of meaning, right? Like typically I've thought of faith as like my faith in God, my faith in my religion, that kind of thing. And that's super important to me. And I sometimes can lose sight of that because even in personal development, I feel like there can be sometimes an overemphasis on like, it's all within me. It's all like, it's just up to me. And that there is a benefit to that. But I also feel that I'm most at peace when I realize that it's not all up to me, really. It's like, I do have a lot of control within me and my mindset and how I create myself and my being. But as far as what happens out there and how things unfold, it's really not up to me. It's in God's hands. I mean, I'm a believer. I mean, obviously I'm a Christian and believe in God and his unconditional love for me. And it's important for me to remind myself of that, of like, yes, I have so much control within me to affect certain outcomes in my life and realize certain objectives, but I'm also in God's hands, and my faith in him gives me strength and courage. And so yeah, back to your question though, I mean, there's the faith in the supernatural and God, source, spirit, Christ, if you're Christian. And that helps me guide my decisions every day to kind of seek, what is your will? Lead me, guide me. And that, I feel like that's very connected to your intuition too, like what's in your heart. That's where God or spirit, you feel him guiding you. But then there's also, like I said, the faith in yourself and your abilities, that you have these God-given abilities that you can use and that God's gifted you with. And so it's helping the client or the person I'm with to really take ownership and give themselves permission to realize what they desire in their heart, because they have these inspirations that are there because God gave them to them, and to have faith in that, not to just kind of deny it like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm good enough for that, whatever, So it's like, for me, it's kind of like directional here and here, and then also within yourself, like faith and trusting your the intuition that you have that's God given as well. So it's a little bit of both, I think, for me. And just faith that you can realize those visions and those dreams that are in your heart, either from when you were a child or maybe as an adult you have new visions or dreams, but faith that those things are possible and that they're not there just to kind of tease you or just I don't know, just to kind of make you feel like you're living a lesser life or whatever. They're actually there to inspire you to move forward and serve others in whatever ways God's given you gifts to serve people. So, yeah.
It's wonderful. Before I move on to the next question, I just want to add into this same, for those people, I mean, hopefully a lot of people right now is getting better mentally because of the struggles that we faced with COVID. But for those people who sort of losing the faith, and just an example, I'm your client, right? And I would tell you, I don't know what faith is, and I don't know how to build that again. I just lost it. I mean, what can you tell me to just like really feel that, I don't know, but when I say faith, it's also very powerful in our life, right? Yeah. It's a source of life. So when people are starting to say, I don't have faith, that's scary to hear.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear, what can you say about me as a client of losing faith and to have it come back slowly?
For sure. Yeah. When you asked me that question, I think what came to my mind was there a point in your life when you did feel faith? And
yes.
Hopefully there is some point in their life where there was either a relationship that person had with a mentor or a friend or someone that gave them a sense of there's more out there to support me than what I'm seeing right now. And so it just really depends where they are on their spiritual journey. I'm not saying because, I have faith right now, I'm better than this person who doesn't or whatever. It's just, I think really connecting them to a source of love and power and greatness that's beyond what they can maybe currently see in their life. So it's really related to hope, I feel like, because they go, faith, hope, and love, like the cardinal virtues are just like so intimately interrelated. It's like faith is belief in what's unseen, right? Like I can't see God. He's not like here in front of me in like a human form, but my faith informs me that he is here and he's with me and he's loving me. So I think it would be for me to help them connect with some point in their life when they did feel faith and maybe some experience where they felt faith and kind of reconnect their heart with that and give more energy to that. And then what they focus on, I think, can grow and just notice throughout the day, instances to be grateful for certain things. And it's like, those are gifts that we receive in faith. We don't necessarily deserve everything we have, but it's all a gift, right? So I don't know. I think that's I think my immediate intuition as to how I would help someone reconnect with faith. But
well, that's very good. I think for those people right now who's listening and watching, if you feel like you're starting to lose faith, I think that's a very good practice to start, to remember or to reconnect. When was the last time that you feel that faith in you or in the environment that you have? And like what you said, just have that more energy, and hopefully that will give you a good start. And so thank you for sharing. Now, for the faith and courage, right? So for a lot of us that I'm included with that, can you elaborate or help us understand the relationship between faith and courage, and how then can this free us from being trapped or feeling lost or stuck?
Yeah, great. Yeah, so I think courage is from a Latin root word cor, which means heart, from what I understand. So I think courage has this aspect of being of like your heart being open and free and not constricted in fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we all have fears every day. It's just a human condition. It comes up throughout the day. You know, the more we kind of train our mind to be in a peaceful, sage part of our brain, in my vocabulary as a coach, the less we might be dealing with those fears. But courage is really action and having strength despite challenges and fears. So while faith is belief in a higher power and that there's this guiding force in your life that loves you unconditionally, and that's, I feel like, completely necessary for peace and peace in your life. Courage, I feel like, is what gives you that kind of impetus or kind of flame in your heart to take action in pursuit of something that you're drawn toward. You know, whether it's your life vision or, you know, some hobby that you really want to undertake, but, you know, it seems really scary to start. Anything really, like anything that's calling you. Courage, I feel like, is that virtue or kind of the impetus or flame that kind of gets you moving out of stationary, kind of like, that would be great, but this, that, other reason, excuses, right? So yeah, I think just for examples, I mean, there's so many different examples in daily life, right? But it's like the danger is always there. There's the fear, there's the potential failure of things not working out the way you like, but it's still taking action and keeping the faith, keeping the vision alive, and still taking action and moving toward that direction, even though you don't know how it's going to play out. You don't know what detours are going to come your way. You don't know what failures, rejections, whatever will come. You're still keeping the faith and taking action toward that goal. So
yes, I would agree with you. I mean, I'm Catholic, but I am not practiced into my religion, but I believe in God. And some people will call it creator or whatever you believe in. But I think there's always a powerful faith in there that will always let us continue. And when we have that strong faith, and then the courage, I think the courage also correlated with how strong is your purpose of whatever you want to do. And because if you have a bigger purpose, bigger than yourself, the courage will be stronger than the fear. Right. And
100%.
And I this is just like not a comment or observation, but this is also based on the people I have spoken with, that it also affects us because of our thoughts. Right. Our thoughts can really it's a danger, can be helpful or can put us into danger. And one of the things that I can remember last time I have spoken with a client was, if I put this thing, you know, they're gonna tell me that, what you're putting is not right. And it's just like, you haven't put yourself out there, but you're already giving yourself the result that you don't know what's gonna happen. Right. And I think when you have that faith and courage, the equivalent of purpose, I think whatever that is, you will be able to overcome the fears, because fears will not disappear.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Fears will not disappear, for sure. They're a given. I mean, that's just the way our brain is, right? We have a survival instinct that's like avoiding pain, avoiding looking, you know, not being approved upon. It's just innate in our DNA. And so I really like how you connected courage to purpose, though, because that's definitely, I feel like, what will keep you going, right? When things get tough, when there's challenges, you don't feel like it, people don't seem to care, whatever it is. If you're connected, and I think that goes back to the heart of service as well. If you're just truly serving from a detached, like, this is how I'm just serving because this feels good and I know this is important, then you're less attached to how things are happening, the results along the way, I think, you know? So yeah, for me, I think another, what they say also, yeah, like courage is not acting without fear, it's acting in the face of fear. And one thing I had written down, I don't know if someone in personal development said, but that God qualifies the called, he doesn't call the qualified. And I think that's part of what goes with faith as well, of like realizing, going back to what I started our conversation with, it's like, it's not all up to me too. There's like, there's my higher power, there's spirit, there's more at play here than what I'm actually doing. And so I answer the call that's on my heart, that I feel that God's giving me, but it's not all up to me. And so that gives me courage too, of like, no matter what happens, if I am truly orienting my heart to serving God and serving others, serving myself, loving myself unconditionally, like what actually happens doesn't really matter, because my intent, my purpose is pure and holy and lovely and good, you know? So, I mean, it's not that we don't have other motives, like, okay, yeah, I'd like to have a nice house and this and that. It's like, okay, doesn't make your motives bad. It's just that like, sometimes those things we think are going to give us joy and they don't. But if we have that true heart of service, no matter what happens, there's nothing that can really take away that, right?
Yes,
totally agree. For me, it's a good reminder. It's like, what is this all for? It's ultimately, it's to serve God and glorify him, and be more and more loving toward myself, so I can be more and more loving to others. And courage is a lot easier when that's the focus and the lens I'm looking through. So
yes, I think for a lot of people who are also believers, I love what you said, that we have the control for certain things, but also outside of that, it's beyond our control, and we leave it to our God, to our Creator.
Yeah.
So when we really surrender that, but we did our part, I think, and then we do it with a purely of service. I totally agree with you. The feeling is not that, either some people would say failure or rejection or disappointment or anything, but sometimes when we feel that negativity, when we have the strong connection with our faith, I think we always step back a little bit and calm ourselves, that, okay, hang on a second. I'm feeling mad at right now with what happened, but I think I did my part and I leave it to him.
Yeah, for sure. That's I think a good example of how faith can work in daily life with disappointments and setbacks. It's just kind of recentering yourself and grounding yourself and where you relate in the world with, you know, God and others. And it's kind of an orientation, or sense of, where do I fit in this big scope of everything out there in the world, in the universe, you know, kind of orienting myself again to where I am. Like, I'm powerful, I'm a co-creator with God, and yet I'm also humble, and realizing how dependent I am on just everything that he creates, and that he continues to will me into existence. And so it's like a both and. It's kind of a yin yang kind of thing of like, I'm super powerful creator, and I'm like God in that way, created in his image, but I'm also very dependent and humble and not in control at all. I mean, you know.
Yes, I totally get you. So now we covered the faith and courage, and obviously, as part of your coaching would be the freedom. I would really love to understand the freedom means to you, right? And before you answer that, I have additional question connected to that. Will be, how do you then practice your freedom in your daily life? So, because you know, I mean, I don't know, I would love to know what's the meaning of your freedom, and how do you?
I say the Pledge of Allegiance every day. I know you're not a U.S. citizen or American, right?
No.
No, yeah. No, I know freedom. I think typically from a more typical sense of the word is like freedom to live your life the way you want, freedoms to, you know, if you want to carry a gun in your house, this and that. That's not the way I'm looking at it. So to me, freedom is in the way that I say I'm the world's best faith, courage, and freedom coach. Freedom from overthinking, from worry, from anxiety, all the stress that we put on ourselves, really, it's self-generated. We think it's out there, and kind of going back to my story of how I became a coach, of thinking that it's out there. That's why I'm stressed. It's not within my control. It's just the way things are. This is legitimately stressful, right? I mean, situations and people can challenge us, but there's always a way to diffuse that within ourselves. So for me, freedom is like freedom from that self-generated anxiety, overthinking, worry, worst case scenario, what could go wrong kind of thinking, which I think we all to some degree struggle with. I don't know that anyone is free from that altogether. Freedom from worry about what other people think of us, so just freedom to be ourselves and fall in love with the person that we are, our true essence. So that's one aspect. Another I would say is kind of what we touched on a little bit, of freedom from attachment to certain outcomes in life. So it's like we hold the vision of what we want for ourselves and our family or friends or whatever, but we're not attached to how it plays out. And it's kind of it's kind of like a detachment to even the vision. Like, wouldn't it be cool if that looks so amazing? And I have faith that is my reality and will be in my present reality, but I'm not so attached to how it actually happens, or that it happened in a very certain time frame or anything like that. So I'd say that's another aspect of it, kind of the loving what is, accepting everything that comes as part of something that's teaching me. There's like a lesson in everything, right? Like my child is throwing a fit or doesn't want to get his shoes on to go to school. And I could be in resistance and like causing myself a lot of stress in that moment. But if I can learn to just release that resistance and that need to control, that gives me freedom in my soul to just see my child for who he is and honor the moment and what the gift or opportunity for learning is there. So I would say that's another aspect of it. And then another aspect I think is just like a freedom lifestyle that a lot of us are pursuing, and even as coaches, that we can be our own boss and we can run our lives the way we want to, not the way our employer or someone else says we need to. So I mean, that's partly what attracts me to the life of coaching, is being able to set my own hours, excuse me, travel, live in a location that I'm in love with and not feel tied down to a certain kind of schedule that someone else dictates for me. So that's part of freedom as well. I feel like is being your own boss, and you can have that in some degree to when you're an employee as well. So it might look different for different people, but I think most people want to have like that ownership in their job where they feel like their skills are being utilized, their voice is heard and appreciated, and they're not just kind of like micromanaged, have to do it the way someone else says, so freedom lifestyle can look like that in differently in different contexts and work settings. But
like what you said, no one's special to face not struggling. We are all struggling, but it's just a matter of, you mentioned freedom of something. So when you feel whatever negativity is that, how do you practice? How do you take that step to remember the three aspects? So like the discipline or principle that you're practicing.
Well, there's so many different frameworks I've learned through coaching and working with my own coach and other coaching programs. For example, one of them is positive intelligence, and that's a program I went through as a coach, and I also offer to my clients. And basically, it's bringing the foundations of neuroscience and positive psychology, and through the factor analysis, they've found that just doing these like many meditative or mindfulness kind of activities where you drop into your body and your five senses. It could be tactile, visionary, or smell, taste. So basically, when you notice a fearful thought or something that's causing stress or anxiety, or maybe you're avoiding something that you need to face, any of those saboteur type driven thoughts, there's 10 saboteurs that they list, and they found through research: avoider, pleaser, hypervigilant, hyperachiever, all these things. Basically, you notice that the energy of the thought, you don't even need to know what's causing it, which saboteur it is. You just say no thank you, you don't fight it, but you just kind of be aware of it, and then drop into your body and release all the thoughts. And then you can utilize one of the sage powers, which is like self-empathy or curiosity or creativity. So I really like this framework, and that's helped me a lot because it's simple, and I love how it has an app every day that just reminds me of this framework, and there's coach challenges. So that's something that I use and that my clients have benefited a lot from. But it's not the only way. I mean, you can just taking a deep breath as a PQ rep and noticing the rising and falling of your chest. So just basically releasing the thought and getting in your body. And then for me, I've done a lot of inner child type work with my coach. So for me, that might look like thinking of myself as a little girl and just showering love on her and just appreciating her beauty and her essence. And when I have that empathy, that love going toward me, it releases a lot of the judgment that's causing those fearful, anxious thoughts that I might be having toward another person. It really works well with conflict management that way. So that's one tool I use. Like I said, the inner child type work of just continually checking in with my heart, my little girl within. It kind of can be equated in some way, like your inner child or your heart or subconscious mind. Another perspective is to do, like, if it's a fearful thought that's just persistent and you're not able to seem like, a little meditation doesn't seem to help you release it. Mm-hmm. You can do the work, like Byron Katie's work. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
Yeah, and just kind of write that out and question the thought. Is it true? That's a really good way to help you see from a different perspective and put love into a situation that's, there's a fearful thought that you question there.
And then the result, and you just like talking about the Byron Katie for other people who are not aware. It's like questioning, and then in the end, whatever the things or the words that you've written down, that will be a reflection of you, and you question yourself whether is that your thoughts to yourself. And it can be really, really, how do you call it, strong, and can be I don't know what's the right term, but can also, when you hear or when you see that answer and then it actually reflects towards you and you're like, what, this is me? No way.
Yeah, it's you have to be ready for it, right? It's like I feel like it's putting it back in your own court, right? You think it's out there and you're like, wait, it's me. And that's not easy, especially I feel like in parenting, you feel like you're responsible for your kids, and then you realize, well, wait, I'm mainly responsible for myself, and my kid's going to probably do what they want to do in this situation. But anyway, that's a whole other thing that I'm been going through with my own coach and my own journey right now. But I would say the work is kind of, I'd say, for those big fearful, anxious kind of thoughts or thoughts that are really nagging at you, like this person should be different. And you're just so you're so set on that. You just can't see how it's possible that this person should be doing or acting differently or being differently. So I think that's a real great key tool for those kind of situations, which we probably all have in some degree. And then like Qigong is something that I've pursued more in the last year, of just being grounded and kind of more in touch with my body in a fluid way that just feel like opens my body up. And I love to be in nature. So for me, being outside, grounded in nature, appreciating God's creation is a way that I practice freedom from anxiety and worry, and just ground myself in the beauty outside. And I think we all need that, right? That's kind of how we evolved to be in nature and not like inside all the time on computers. And so I would say those are the top ways that I practice freedom. And I think you're gonna ask me more about some other tools I use, but as far as freedom, I feel like those are the top ways that I kind of tackle anxiety and stress in my daily life. So
yeah, I mean, for more tools, and if everyone outside, out there, you resonate and you feel the powerful message or information from Joan Claire. Later on, of course, we will find out where we can connect with her, right?
Sure.
And
I'd be happy to give someone further guidance there.
Yeah, and before I proceed to the next question, I just want to add on to this freedom, the faith, courage, and freedom. So I think a lot of, I don't know if you saw this previous post that I have published in my Facebook, but anyway, it's a reflection of freedom because we have so many things that we want to achieve in life, but I think there's so many things that we allow ourselves to get stuck and felt like we don't have a choice to make. And I just want to add in that having strong faith and courage with great purpose, you have the freedom as well, that when you have all those strengths, strong faith and courage, the freedom is within you to really pursue of detaching all those attachment, detaching all of those fear of judgment or whatever it is. Because I really noticed that this is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't pursue what they want to pursue, because we think that we don't have freedom, but obviously we have freedom, like what you said. But I just want to reiterate that many times, and we are not trapped because we have no choice. We have actually choice, but it's a matter of whether you are committed to take that choice to where you really want to be. Because some people might think that this is the definition of my happiness, then so be it. But some people will be more fulfilled with the service, right? The purity of service. So we have different understanding, but as long as we are, I think we underestimated the meaning of happiness, you know?
Yeah.
Happiness is really like simple, but we complicated it.
Yeah.
And that's within the faith and the courage and freedom, really, right?
Yeah. I like how you connected courage with freedom, that we have, that it takes courage to pursue the freedom that you desire to. With that courage, you can pursue it. It's not like you're stuck, because it's kind of, a lot of people think like, I don't have freedom. I'm in this job and this excuse and that reason. And it feels very real, right? But once you can more tap into that faith and the courage and, some other tools with building faith in your vision too, and through daily repetition, really. I mean, because it takes a lot of, I don't want to make it sound like it's heavy, but it takes practice to shift your mind and undo years of thinking more negatively or pessimistically, or like, I'm not enough, or I'm not worth it. I mean, I work on that. I have to, or it easily will go south, toward fear. So I think we don't want to downplay that it takes practice. I mean, I don't want to say work to make it sound like this is so heavy or something, but it's like anything. If you want to get better at positive thinking and realizing your visions, you need to practice thinking that way. It's not like an overnight thing. So.
Speaking of that actually correlate with the next question, which this is part of the Empower Your Life question anyway, because I am that person as well, optimistic. So I want to know, how do you keep yourself being an optimistic person as a mom, as a wife, as a coach, and other hats that you're wearing to be optimistic?
For sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. So optimism, I feel like it's a kind of a broad term, but to me, it's like hoping and believing in the best outcomes and the best that everything is here as a gift and opportunity of what presents itself in our life. So it really touches back to a lot of what I've already said. But as far as actual practices, I try to start the day with some prayer and to cultivate the faith and the presence of God. And that gives me greater faith and courage. But I also have practices that I want to be even more consistent on, with affirmations and visualizations, of feeling into what I'm saying and informing my subconscious of what I want to believe about myself and my future. Gratitude is not something that I feel like I actively like writing down gratitude, but I think it's just a natural outpouring of having a more optimistic outlook, of just feeling like there's so much abundance around me and I'm so grateful for it, and just cultivating that throughout the day. Especially when you're feeling some fearsome thoughts, that can be a really useful practice. And then declarations, I think, we're both in Steve Hardison's circle of just, declaring yourself, whatever you feel yourself to truly be, or aspects of your being that you want to cultivate, of being unconditionally loving, or whatever that looks like. Repeating those is kind of like affirmations. And then not waiting to be those things, but just declaring it now and repeating it and visualizing yourself that way really helps it come into the present moment. And then your actions, will flow from that. So I found that to be really helpful, because in moments where I feel, maybe I'm getting a little upset at my husband because of something he said, and then I remind myself, okay, I'm instantaneous forgiveness, so this is like something that I'm trying to cultivate within myself. Like, okay, I'm not going to give it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, not in a judgmental way, but just like, I'm going to really do what I can to forgive him internally right now, and not kind of hold a grudge and get to it later. And maybe I, certain times I won't be ready for that, or maybe someone else needs more time for where they're at now with a certain person. But it's like, I just remind myself of who I am, and that helps me stay optimistic and happy with how I'm being in the world. And just choosing my language carefully. I don't know if it's an NLP thing or whatever, but just how our words are so impactful, how we talk to others about ourselves, how, whether we're complaining or not, just being careful with the words that I use, not only internally, but externally. And I don't really read the news much at all. I mean, I kind of like to know in general what's going on, but in general, I find that time is not well spent. It's not a good use of my time. I try to, pray and be mindful of what's going on in the world and challenges that people are facing. But I really try to keep my focus more on my family and my clients and people in my community. And then even with social media, I feel like I need a limit as well at times. There's so much good stuff on social media, but I feel like sometimes social media can be kind of draining your focus or energies in certain ways if you're just kind of mindlessly scrolling. So I have to limit that as well. And exercise and eating well, sleeping well. Those are all the basics of just taking care of your body is helping you taking care of your mind, and it's all really interrelated, right? And that helps me a lot with my autoimmune type condition too, of just feeding my body nutrients and following the protocols that help me feel my best, and being just being grateful for that I have these tools that help me feel better and live my life without pain, physical pain. So
that's a lot of practices or tips there. I'm sure a lot of people will take note of that, and majority of them practice the same. And thank you for mentioning social media and news. This is not the first time I'm hearing with people, but it's great. I think a lot of people learn so many things of, especially I would highlight the faith, because I'm also a great believer, and just don't lose hope, for everyone out there that's struggling. Right now, Joan Claire shared with us so many great and powerful and valuable information that I truly believe will be very helpful for you everywhere out there that listening and watching right now. And of course, if you feel like you want to get to know more about the services that Joan Claire is offering, especially if you're in Arizona or in Phoenix to be specific, because you also offer online, right?
Yeah, it's mostly online, so it's mostly over Zoom or phone calls. Yeah.
Yeah, so where can we find you?
Yeah, well, I have my email is joancgilbert@gmail.com. So just Joan C like cat Gilbert@gmail.com. I'm getting a website up probably within the next week. Kind of right now I'm at a point in my coaching where I'm starting to focus more on attorneys because I see there's a big need for, attorneys dealing with chronic stress, and it is my career background, so that the website might be geared more toward that. But feel free to reach out if any of what I said resonated with you and you'd love to have a conversation. I'd love to gift you with my time and see how I can help you in any way, and even just a call or two. And yeah, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, Joan Claire Gilbert. Say like life coach, attorney, you'll know who I am. So
there you go. Fantastic. And before we end this episode, so I want to ask, this is just like a last question out of the picture. If you bumped in with, let's say, a student who's about to be practicing a, law, and she would ask you, "Oh, I know you. You are the faith, courage, and freedom coach. If you can advise that lady or man who is about to do or not practicing as in law, what advice would you give them in relate to faith, courage, and freedom?"
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I think I would tell that person to remain true to themselves. I think so many people enter the law because they think it's what their parents or family members think is the right thing to do. It's prestigious. It's what smart people do. And I think a lot of attorneys suffer from feeling like once it's a path they've started, they can't get off. So it's not necessarily that if they start, they need to get off if they feel stressed, but remain true to yourself, and in that really get in touch with what your true essence is, your true desires, your interests, your longings, what you desire for your future, and don't lose sight of that. Don't let the law overtake you and become a slave to the law, become in love with your life and yourself, even if you are practicing law and there's aspects of it that can seem kind of stressful at times and out of your control. So
I love it. I love it. Stay true to yourself. I think that's super, super powerful. Well, there you go. Thank you so much. We covered most of it, and really, I learned so many things on this episode. I'm pretty sure most of the people who are listening and watching right now. And there you go. You have, of course, I'm gonna put the information where you can connect, especially for those attorneys out there that who would like to live their life in the most freedom lifestyle of their dreams. I'm gonna put that on the blog so you can connect with Joan Claire. And if you find this episode obviously very helpful and valuable, don't forget to share it over to your friends, family, whomever going to benefit with this. And so there you go. Thank you so much for your
Cindy.
time.
You're a lovely interviewer. Yeah, thank you for your work.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy that interview, and I hope you find it inspiring and motivating. Remember, stay optimistic and keep taking action slowly but surely for your big dreams. Thank you once again, and I'll see you on the next episode here at Empower Your Life.